Howdy, folks. Welcome back to The Highway with Kyle Shutt. I am so happy to be here. Today we have our first international guest on the program. Sure, it's just Canada, but it still counts. Mr. Todd Kowalski from one of my favorite bands, Propagandhi, sat down with me this week, and we talked about all kinds of stuff like getting harassed by cops, trouble crossing borders, getting harassed by cops. We had so much fun. If you like what you've been hearing on the program, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Click that little follow tab, ring the bell. You know what to do. But if you want to go one step further and help keep the lights on, you can find us at patreon.com/thehighway. You can get all kinds of fun perks like early access to next week's episode and get yourself a shout out. Who do we got this week? We got my boy Kenny Irwin. Mad props Kenny, big Kenny. We got Andrew Jorgensen. We got Chris Haynes. All y'all have helped, keep the wheels a spinning on this crazy rock and roll machine. Can't thank you enough. We also got to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Heil Sound. Because if you like the way I sound, it's because there's a Heil in front of me. Talking to myself is fun and all, but I'd way rather talk to the bass player from my favorite band, so why don't we do things my way?
The Highway.
Hey, what's up, Todd?
How's it going, Kyle? Doing pretty good.
Oh, doing well. Todd Kowalski, everybody. Todd the Rod from Propagandhi and many other hardcore bands over the years. Thanks so much for sitting down with me, man.
Oh, my pleasure. I brought,
Are you still in
my
Winnipeg?
Sword.
Are you still up in Winnipeg there?
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cold here right now.
Yeah.
Minus
Gotta bet,
40 or something.
Yeah, is that Fahrenheit or is that in Celsius?
It's Celsius, yeah. So, but I think it's
so
almost...
what would that be in...
I think it's around there. It's almost the same.
Right, once it gets that far down the scale.
I think maybe, yeah. But all you need to know is it's super cold, I guess.
You will die if you go outside.
The other day I was out and my glasses froze to my face. He had burnt my...
Oh, dude, that's brutal. Oh my God. I don't know if I could exist there. I'm from Texas my whole life, so yeah, that's kind of like unfathomable cold. I think the coldest I've ever been was in London, Ontario.
Okay.
And it was negative 20 out. Yeah, so you're negative 40 right now? Good Lord, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, man, gotta admit, I've been a huge fan for a long, long time. I think I first discovered Propagandhi from one of the Fat Records comps before you were in the band, but not very long before. Whenever John left and you came in, I pre-ordered Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes, and got it about a week early from G7. So that was it was really cool seeing that shift from you guys, but also just from G7 and all the mail order scene back in the hardcore days in the 90s, kind of before the internet really took off. It was how I found out about bands like I Spy and Swallowing Shit, and just that whole Winnipeg scene really inspired me early on in playing music. And I was just curious, I don't know how closely related you were with the G7 people and all that, but I mean, did y'all know that what you were doing in a town like Winnipeg was reaching the whole world and like changing people's perspective about punk rock and hardcore and things, or were you kind of isolated up there?
It's kind of both. Just how being in a band, you're in it and people are listening and it's people are liking it, but it's not part of your except for answering letters or whatever, you're not day to day feeling oh, I'm all these people are into this, you just kind of go about your business. I don't not taking it for granted, but you just kind of not noticing it so much, But I wasn't necessarily part of G7, but I was I had a desk there even for some unknown reason. I go down.
Tax purposes, right?
Yeah. I'd just be I don't know, just go down, talk to those guys for a while, and go home. Really.
I've seen y'all play many shows, and I have to say that I think that you might be the most stoked guy ever to play a show. and I wanted to ask you, how much do you love playing shows, and how much do you miss playing shows?
I love playing shows when I like the crowd. You might know the feeling of that too. If the crowd's a dud, then I have to like bring it out of myself and just try to make myself enjoy it, and I also, I don't know, you know how it is, I just want to just kind of it's impossible, but you want to try to be as good as or make people feel the way that your heroes made you feel when you're watching their shows, so it's always in my head, like I have to do the best job I possibly can at this minute, because I don't know if these people will ever see me again or see us again. I mean, So yeah,
that's a good point, because I guess when you're on tour, you can kind of lose sight of like each individual place, just kind of like, because it all blends together after a while, and like it becomes like a daily thing where you're like, you want everybody you come in contact with to just feel that feeling you have inside. I mean, I feel like that you and I have a lot of like similar energy on stage, just because there's nothing more than I love than to just play a show for a stoked crowd. And it's God, I miss it. I don't know if y'all had a bunch of dates that got canceled or anything because of the pandemic, but a lot of ours got canned and postponed and all that, and so it's just kind of like sitting around waiting for the world to open has been such a bummer.
Yeah, you must be extra sitting in your travel vehicle.
The old Airstream, just like staring out the window like there's a whole world out there. But man, I don't know. Because I know you've been in a bunch of bands over the years and stuff, but one thing that I did notice when I was looking up everything that you played with was that you played bass for J Church for a minute.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if anybody out there remembers J Church, but they were an amazing it's more of a pop punk kind of thing. But Lance Hahn, who had moved to Austin, later in his life, I got to be friends with him. And the sort of the Austin iteration of J Church. And he started working at a record store called Sound Exchange, which was like a huge part of the Austin scene back in those days. And he was one of the nicest people I think I ever came across. And I hope I'm not oversharing, but he unfortunately passed away. But before he did, his apartment got torched in a massive fire. Somebody had like gotten evicted from their apartment, and they just decided that they were going to burn the whole place down.
Oh wow!
And this dude had been collecting records since the 80s. I mean, like he had like over 10,000, pieces of just like irreplaceable vinyl in his apartment that just turned into a giant melted pile. And then after that, his health kind of like took a turn, and he ended up passing away, which was like heartbreaking for me at the time. But he was just such a special, unique person. I just wanted to ask what that was like touring with him and stuff, because I think he only did one tour, right?
Yeah, I was in Japan, so I think like maybe 5 or 6 shows. We got there in J Church. Lance came a day before the rest of J Church to meet us. I think they asked us to play, so it was actually their tour.
Oh, cool.
And then the band never got across the border. They just got sent back to the States, but Lance was already there. So we just went to this little room and started learning their songs.
You're kidding.
Yeah, I learned half, and then Chris learned half. George learned them all, I guess, and I guess the tough part is remembering them. And then, so we did that, and we'd play J Church. I don't know if it was first or second, or if it was switching or what, but like we'd play J Church and then our whole set as well. Yeah, and Lance was a great guy. I really, really liked him, and. Yeah, we just got along so easy with him. I agree, the nicest guy.
Yeah, and it was funny him moving to town and just immediately like working at my favorite record store and just like seeing him all the time. Just like, this is crazy. Yeah. Like, when does this happen? I actually saw y'all. This would have been right after Empires came out, and this lineup was ridiculous, y'all. It was I think Avail, Leatherface, I think J Church, Propagandhi. I mean, there was even more. It was this crazy.
Hot Water Music too, I think.
Hot Water Music, yeah, that was like the Plea for Peace tour or something like that. There's some similar kind of thing. It was just, I mean, an absolutely ridiculous bill, and that was the first time I had ever seen y'all, and you just burned it down, man. That
oh,
was
right
a
on, cool.
Ridiculous show. Speaking of border crossings and getting turned away and everything, you're actually the first international guest on the program.
Oh, cool.
And so I wanted to ask your take, because I have had nothing but horrible experiences. Not necessarily trying to get into Canada. That's always kind of, it's pretty standard. They kind of grill you if you've ever got popped with any weed or anything like that, you know. But for the most part, they'll let you in. It's the DUIs and like the, you know, drunk driving and stuff that they really crack down on, and rightfully so. But as a U.S. citizen, getting back into the U.S. from Canada is such a nightmare every single time, and it's like I can't explain why these Border Patrol agents have such a stick up their ass about letting U.S. citizens back into their home country. But what's your opinion? What's it like as a Canadian band trying to cross the border into the U.S.? Do they grill you as hard as they grill us?
We've been grilled to the max a few times, but a few times, most of the time it's not been that hard. But yeah, I think sometimes you get someone who thinks they're cool or doesn't like something about you. Like we had one time, this guy saw like some books Jord had, and he just decided he didn't like us, told us we're not coming into the States, threw Jord's books across the floor. We all got interrogated. They went through all our stuff, seeing if the like fax marks, like they were saying, like are these terrorist marks, and like I was taken into the room, and then I was taken into the cell, and then it was crazy. And then we got to the head guy, and he was kind of more reasonable. It's almost like I don't know what they were trying to see how we'd react to it all, and of course we're just
sweat you or whatever.
We're just kind of chill guys, and I was just whatever, you know, just sitting there. If you ask me something, I'll tell you. If you know, I think eventually the main guy just asked me a few questions, and then he even asked me how the other border guard treated us and what I thought of that. and I said, I was like, well, I don't think it was too good, you know, like he threw our stuff on the floor and whatever. It's like, but whatever, you know. I'm like, it's like I'm just sitting here. I don't know what to do. And he's like, how come? Oh yeah, because I stood up. He said, you're going home right now. That's what he said to me. So I stood up, like I was like, okay, I'm going home. And he had a flashlight, and he was going to hit me with it. And he's like, sit down, down. And I'm like, you just told me I'm going home. So I was going home. And he's like, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's what I think maybe the head guy could see that on the camera or something. Was like, what the hell's going on? And it was just kind of odd, but whatever. I just kind of sat there and then carried on. It was, you know, I just found it like I remember him saying, like, talking about these books, like, what are you guys, like, all these books were printed in the States, like, you know, like they're just like George's reading books printed in the States. I don't really know. I don't even know what they are. So,
good Lord, it's a special breed, I think, that ends up guarding the invisible line. We always got messed with weed just because we were hopeless marijuana addicts, and but we were never stupid enough to try to smuggle any across the border. There's so much pot in Canada or the States for us to buy and smoke. Why risk everything by just smuggling it across the line? But they wouldn't let it go, and I think that, you know, a lot of officials like that are trained to detect lies. And so your best defense with them is to tell them the truth. It drives them crazy though, because they're trying to find your lie, and you're not lying. They're just they would grill us sometimes and say things like, all right guys, where's the shit, where is it? I'd be like, I don't know, I smoked all that before I even came here in a place that you don't even have jurisdiction of, so that we don't have anything, we're not that stupid, you know. And they're just like, it would make them so mad. I was you know, it's not a crime to be high, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but whatever. I was just always shocked at how difficult it was for us to get back into the States. Sometimes they would just wave us through, but rarely. You know, most of the time it was it was a pain. But especially doing that in Europe, every country sometimes you have to get out and like do the whole thing. We never really had that much trouble over there back in those days, but also we've been touring Europe since Bush was in office, and so at least back in those days, if you as an American just straight up came out and said like, no, fuck George Bush, we're not about any of that shit, you get treated like gold. They loved it, you know what I mean? But with fucking Trump in office, man, there was no defending that. There was no, like, you're just branded an American, you're all of you, just fuck it all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What was watching the last 4 years of this nightmare in this country like from afar? Was it like kind of like even I don't know, was it part of I guess like the news in Canada or something like that, just watching this shit show happen, you know?
Yeah, it's on the news every day. It's such a, like, because it affects us so closely, you know?
Yeah.
Like all our everything's tied to the States up here, sort of, in some way. So, but it's kind of watching, like, I guess from my perspective is like having read like books from, about like Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee and all those old, like, the Battle for Little Bighorn, and just reading all those books and all the books about genocide in like Rwanda, Bosnia, everything, like, and books just about genocide in general and war crimes, and like reading so much of that stuff over time. Like, you could see it, like, we were trying to warn about it on Empires, and like, like, just like my songs, like, I found on Empires were like explicit warnings, like Ordinary People Do Fucked Up Things, that song. Yeah. It's like 100%. This is the warning of where this is headed. And to see how close it got or is still getting is very crazy. Like, just,
it's fucking scary, dude. Yeah, for real. Like, we really had a sense that like white supremacy and all that garbage was like gone, or at least like so small that it was not a threat. But like, just to see the rise of it again and like see how close shit got to really hitting the fan, it was just fucking terrifying for me, man.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's very crazy. It's so disappointing, and even more disappointing than people you don't know about, like just random people somewhere. It's most frustrating to see like aunts or uncles or people you used to know or something, like kind of getting sucked into it, low level, like, like just sharing something they saw. Oh, that made me mad, I'll go share it, without thinking about it or probably even reading it,
Yeah, totally.
I found that kind of extremely disappointing.
Me too, being from Texas. Yeah. Kind of. It's disappointing, disheartening. Yeah, it's a lot of just negative emotion, and I don't see it an end to it anytime soon without some real just work. I'd hate to say change, because I don't know, dude. We just gotta. You almost have to. I hate preaching to the choir, because you're not going to get anywhere. So, that's one thing. You kind of have to confront it, in a certain way. But a lot of people too, they're just not going to change. And it's finding the ways that you can make a positive impact, I think is where my energy has more been lately. Like, throwing fundraisers to help organizations that are standing for, affecting policy change between people of color and law enforcement and things like that. It's really like you have to really like pick an avenue and work hard at that, and instead of just like I used to say, like, not being racist is no longer enough. Yeah. We all really have to like find something and help where we can. That's very important to me. Did you ever like at one point like have an actual like compound that the whole band lived in and everything like that, or is it? Not a compound, but a lame house where me and Chris lived, and actually it was it was me and Chris and all that, and then he moved to a different house, and then at some point, and then I Spy all moved into there. And the funny part is, like, a guy from I Spy took Chris's room, and then Chris at the last minute changed his mind and he didn't want to leave, and then he slept out in the car for a couple days, like protesting himself getting.
having to leave the house. Kind of like not a serious protest, like kind of as a joke, you know. And then and then he ended up coming in. He tried to sleep. I had this like single kids bed pretty much, and he was demanding. He didn't want to be in the car anymore, so he stayed in that bed with me. We laughed so hard all night. I was just like, yeah, this can't continue. And then the next day, he was just off to his new house.
Good Lord. There was a punk house in Austin back in the day that people paid rent to stay in the most ridiculous situations. Like one guy, it was I think $35 a month to sleep on the porch. Okay, there was another guy who paid $20 a month to sleep in the car that was parked in the yard that had no wheels. You know what I mean? It was just like, goddamn, I love a good punk house. We used to sleep on a lot of floors back in the day. Any band has to, I suppose. But was there a point where you were like, we just can't do this anymore, y'all? Or was there like any horror stories from just
no,
some horrible houses?
Well, I've stayed in obviously a lot of horrible, crazy places, especially in the 90s when the squat scene in Europe was so strong. Just sleeping in squalor sometimes, but and lots of like people's kitchen floors, everything. But I think it was maybe more like, I don't think I ever would have thought of going to hotels if Chris and George didn't. I think they're just like, they're 3 years older than me, maybe like a couple months more mature, so they like. They said, let's go to hotels. I remember thinking, oh, that seems like it's going to start costing a lot of money, But that's about it. Like, George was kind of, he still does all the booking and all the organizing, so I was just kind of going with the flow. Just, okay, you want to stay in a hotel? Stay in a hotel, sure, whatever. And I think for a while it was like, like three of us in one room, and then on that Empires tour, we started getting our sound guy Barney, and then it was him in another room, us three in one room because he snores like crazy, and then we started like adding a few more people. So now it's usually two of us in a room, two other guys in another room, and then the crew in whatever room they're in. Yeah,
that's great. What speaking of European squats and everything, did you ever play Christiania, or do you still play there?
I didn't play there, but I went there. Yeah, it was
oh man,
it was like we played some other place in the same, so we went to look at it. I've been there twice. It was kind of a lot different in the 90s than it was last time I went. So
really, how so?
I was just like almost I can't even remember now. It's just like a little bit more like regular neighborhood-ish than it used to be,
Yeah. For people that don't know, Christiania is it's an old military compound that's located within Copenhagen, but it's technically a squat because I think squatters have been there for almost 100 years or something that, right?
Okay.
A very, very long time, and they've obtained squatters' rights, and they don't recognize the European Union, and it's just pretty. It can kind of go one way or the other, but it's pretty much now it's like an open air drug market. Yeah. And there's only two rules: no running and no taking photos. And so as soon as you go in there, it's just kind of like it's just a little free zone. They do have some venues, little cafes and things. It is kind of like a little neighborhood.
Yeah.
But there's just like people just selling hash and weed at tables. I'm sure you can get anything else you want.
Yeah, I remember that.
You can always, because at first walking around the area before entering Christiania, I'd always see, like 20 people in line at the ATM. I'd be like, what the hell's going on here, man? Then I was like, oh,
yeah.
I know where y'all are going.
Yeah, for some reason I have not a very clear memory of being there, even though I have been a couple times. I just, how you just remember these little snippets. But the first time, I think they had big shows there. Like Rage Against the Machine, I think, was playing there.
They did. The whole the riot police got called in and everything.
Oh, really?
And the whole crowd got tear gassed.
Oh wow, because that was right after the I Spy show, like in Copenhagen. Because I remember seeing the poster like that show's coming up, thinking that's a pretty big show for this place.
Yeah, it's a crazy part of town because like so much of the city's culture and everything sort of hinges upon it that every 2 years, whenever everything's up for re-election or whatever, it gets used as like a political pawn of like, one party saying we're going to shut it all down, and then another party saying no, we're going to keep it open. So the Christiania will actually shut themselves down during that time just to show the city what it would be like if they weren't there.
Oh.
And so I've walked through there before where I've just noticed every door is shuttered, and I was like, where are all the people? And they're like, oh yeah, we're closing down for right now. I was like, I'm not going to be back here for a year at least, damn it.
Oh, wow.
But
and so so to the people, the city's worse with it closed down.
That's the consensus of the public, that it's just not it's such a special place, and it really is. There's hardly any other place in the world like that that I've seen anyway. But Copenhagen's one of my favorite cities. I love touring Europe. I hope to make it back one day. We will see.
Yeah, unless this is a memory I made up because I wanted it to be true. I think the first I Spy show played a place that like Merciful Fate played, and I was so stoked about that. But no, over time it's like, I hope that was true.
After thousands of shows, I'm sure it all blends together. It does for me. I have a really. I guess I got started playing music when I was so young. I was still very impressionable that like up until a certain point, I have a very sharp memory about what happened. But then after that point, it's a jumble. I'm like, I don't remember, like the crew changed so much or this or that. I'll be telling a story and be like, were you even there? I don't even remember anymore. But that's fun. I've loved y'all's music forever, and trying to learn to play your songs though is so difficult. Y'all are, you get the punk label, obviously, or even hardcore, but y'all are just, I think you're on the prog side of things, because like a lot of like the guitar parts, I would have such a hard time picking out by ear, and then I would see you play, and they're like, oh, Chris has a capo, on the second fret for that, so that's why I can't figure out like all these crazy open, parts he's playing and everything. What would you say your music is? It's kind of been all over the place at this point. Over the years, but
I guess it's I guess maybe it's always been that way, but like people divide metal and punk so much, but I guess when we got into it, it was like The Accused, COC, like old COC when they're crossover, DRI, Dayglow, like SNFU, like Bad Brains, like all the bands were like fast and metally punk, and then I think we just kind of stayed that path, really, almost like maybe in the early 90s, like the Fat Records influence got, their Propagandhi songs going that way a little bit, but I think like from the point I'm in till whenever, it's mostly just like a continuation of what we've always loved, is just metal and punk mixed with like throwing in other things that we hear that we like, usually something sad or whatever. And then there's like a little bit of a tinge like the old like Doughboys and stuff, like Canadian kind of punk bands that like the Nils, the Doughboys, No Means No, like all the bands that like not LA or New York bands, but like the kind of bands from where we were actually from, Beyond Possession, that kind of thing. So
I'm so glad you brought up No Means No. They're one of my favorite bands ever, and like number one, I don't know, they might be making sort of a comeback with like the internet kind of making music more widely available to people, but I'm still shocked that like they're not more revered than they are. Especially live, they were one of the most intense live groups ever, and I don't know why there's not a documentary about them or something.
There is. Like,
between Sex Mad up through Wrong, there is one.
Yeah, I was gonna. It's a documentary about Vancouver bands, and I was gonna watch it last night, but I ran out of time, and I had it on my computer ready to watch, but then I closed the tab to do this interview, so I haven't seen it yet, and I can't remember what it's called, but it exists if you just type like punk Victoria music,
Vancouver punk documentary,
something like that. Yeah,
they were they're just so intense. I love that band. Wrong. Anybody that wants some new music in their life, go check out their records like Sex Mad or Wrong, or what's the Mr. Happy something. I can't remember exactly, but God, they were just incredible. One of those bands that like they get lumped in that punk category, but they were I don't know. I think they were more on like the Melvin side of things, just like weird, just crazy, intense hardcore music.
Yeah, they
love that shit.
They're way more revered in Europe, you know, and like they played. My favorite show I saw them was like No Means No. And have you ever heard of the X? They're from Holland, but they're kind of really big in experimental band, and the X was huge in like I think the squad scene, and they played everywhere they could. They even went to Ethiopia and stuff. And
wow.
Yeah, so they played with No Means No in Regina in the 80s, and like I thought the X was awesome, but then when No Means No came on, I was like, oh, this is so amazing.
If I could pick any band to be in, it might be them. I was a big Wipers fan too. Okay. I like really melodic shit. But also just I like really, really abrasive music too. Yeah, and the No Means No, just they hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah.
God, one of my favorites. And also, just finding out about them through mail order was that was a huge part of why I got into punk and stuff in the 90s, sort of before the internet made everything really accessible. Everything. There was nothing better than sending a check off or whatever to a money order to a label and just getting, you know, I mean, for the money too, you know, like a lot of records that you could get from punk labels were so much cheaper than like a CD in a store or anything like that. And most of the time the labels would throw in an extra 7-inch or a handful of patches or buttons or stickers or whatever like that. It was really much more of like a personal thing. And I think that's what really made me fall in love with punk rock. And,
and it was like $7. Yeah, $7 usually per record or something. Yeah.
Totally, or 10 at the most, you know, and like I said, when I pre-ordered Empires and I got it in the mail a week before its release and everything like that, like, it's little things like that just made me feel so special. Like growing up in like a really horrible small town in Texas, it made life a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot better. But eventually, I guess I wanted to talk about whenever you added Beeve as the second guitar player. Was that sort of out of necessity, or was it a thing where like just the songs you were writing sort of got to the point where you needed another guitar player, or was maybe Chris like just trying to sing more and have a sort of an auxiliary guitar player to do some of the heavy lifting, or was it just like one of those things where y'all just got like writing crazier material and needed another guitar player?
I think it was kind of like all those things, and Beaver played in this band Giant Suns that was really good, and like mostly it was just kind of a friend. And then, like a friend who I think thought could add some like texture and depth to the songs, and which I think that's what he did pretty much.
Yeah, what was Supporting Cast the first one he played on?
Yeah, Supporting Cast. Yeah.
And that was, I just love that first song that just comes in and just punches you in the face. That was such a turning point for y'all, and then on into Failed States, which I think might be my favorite record from y'all. Just from beginning to end, it's just fucking brutal, man. It's so metal. It almost has like I'm not a big fan of comparing bands to other bands, but if you took Chris's vocals out and just put some Jeff Tate in there, it's got some Mad Queensryche vibes. You know what I mean? Like it's God, it's so unique for a band. Y'all are just such a unique band. There's not really a band that sounds like Propagandhi or even has like the ethos behind it all. I just have so much respect for y'all.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I like Queensryche.
I saw that was actually the last concert I saw before the world shut down. Queensryche with Latour.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I don't think Michael Wilton's in the band anymore. Chris, I'm sorry, I don't think Chris DeGarmo's in the band anymore.
No, I don't think it's
just Michael Wilton and
bass player, or is he Michael Wilton?
I think it's Eddie Jackson. Rockenfield's a drummer, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think he's gone now too. Yeah.
So is it just Michael Wilton?
No, there's two of them. Maybe the other guy.
All right.
I can't remember.
But it was sick. I don't care as long as they play Jet City Woman. I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I saw them with Jeff Tate once though, and his singing was spectacular, man. Like live.
What era?
Not too long ago.
Was it when they had the weird, like the cabaret show on tour with them?
I don't know, but they played all of Operation Mindcrime and then other songs after it. So
So
I guess
sick.
like a cabaret. I guess I don't know what cabaret is mainly, but they did
I
have
just
some
remember-
kind of an act or like set and stuff.
I just remember that one tour they did. They had like a cast of like burlesque dancers and
No.
like ringleaders and stuff that would come out and do all kind of like theatrics.
Yeah, no, that wasn't that.
It
No.
was like a greatest hits tour.
Yeah.
I wish I could have caught that one. I bet that would have been interesting. But yeah, then watching all the drama with them after.
Yeah, punched
that
the
tour
guy.
and
He
everything
punched
was
the
just
guy or
like-
spit in his face or something on
or
stage.
pulled a knife on him or something. I don't know. It was like the whole drama was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And watching it unfold on heavy metal websites was. I hate to admit it. It was really entertaining.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, George saw them on the tour for their first record.
Good Lord, the Queen of the Reich one, like the first.
Yeah, it's just like
Good Lord.
yeah, they were opening for AC/DC, I guess. If you
Wow.
if you look on the there's the Propagandhi record. I just looked at it last night. That's why it was kind of fresh in my mind. Is on the Quantities Job 1 Propagandhi 7-inch. There's a letter.
Yeah.
There's a letter from Jord to Chris that they wrote like before they were even friends, really, but they were just getting to know each other, like writing to each other. And George says, I just went and saw AC/DC in Queensryche. AC/DC was awesome, but Queensryche sucked the bag.
That's ridiculous, man. I've got that 7-inch. It's like a double 7-inch, right? Like
Yeah,
one
yeah.
like yellow and brown vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to go dig that out.
Yeah, it's
I've got
kinda
the CD
fun.
too, with like the Venom covers and things like that too.
Yeah.
It's good times. That was before you though, right?
That I was in the band, but there's songs that are from before the band. So I was in
Okay,
the band when it came out, but not not on the songs.
Mhm.
But yeah, we were in. Yeah, Chris, he does a cover of that Venom "Stand Up and Be Counted" maybe.
Yeah.
On there. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's awesome.
Love that shit. But what's next though? I mean, any plans to make another record and during this now precedented time? It's no longer unprecedented.
Yeah, I got lots of riffs on the go. I just keep putting them on the voice, whatever we're on here, voice app, and then I have so many, and then I transfer them to my computer where I don't forget them. Write down the riffs, and I'm just trying to put for me the hard part's the words. It's not the riffs.
Really?
So I have a zillion riffs, and then it's so hard to take a idea and make an actual good song. You know, that's the hard part. It's like I can riff, but the next step is like, oh man, to put these words, because you don't want them to be corny words, and you don't, like for ours, like we don't have the kind of thing where we can like just go sing about Satan, or which I would like. That'd be easy and nice because I think about Satan all the time. But you know what I mean? Like we can't like we can't default to like a fantasy story or satanic like. It's just difficult because you also like you can't sit there like it's like I have no interest in like pulling headlines off the news and trying to make songs about that.
Yeah.
So and also like everything like in these days everything goes so fast that like okay you pull an idea pretty soon 10,000 the same like if you were to have a thought about something about politics, like it's just so oversaturated when people can hear like every click of every button is someone's new opinion about this something. It's very hard to find your own thought that has something to do with you, not just the outside context of like, oh, Trump is orange and he sucks and this is bad. Like everyone knows it, everyone who's not a complete imbecile. So
I found myself in denial for like quite a while after he won. I was like, there's no way this is real. This can't be. I'm not paying attention to this. That sucked. But I could, I mean, like, I don't know, like I'm not political at all in my own material, I guess. But I see what you mean though about like finding the story that you want to tell.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But yeah, within a political landscape that's constantly changing so fast that you can't even keep up with it. Like that's got to, I can definitely see the challenge there.
Yeah, like even if you look at the like, we actually just remixed and remastered the new or today's Empires to get back to the original sounds. It sounds so awesome now. Like
God, yeah, I love that record. I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, it's so much better. Like none of us listened to the old version ever. But when Jason from Blasting Room started handing us back the new versions, we were like, okay, this is rock, and this record's way better than we thought it was. And like George's drums just sound like just cracking and awesome. Like I think it's just so much better. But I guess the reason why I said it is we're redoing the booklet, like to put photos and whatever, change it. And some of the quotes in Empires are kind of odd now. Like because times have changed so much, like there's something about the boorish expression of the population, like affecting governments, you know. But it, like I think the initial idea was like the general people will be like the expression won't be just complete imbecility, you know, like a boorish expression of total imbecility, like,
yeah,
you know. So we were just like, this quote in context of today is just like, oh fuck, let's just get rid of it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That record is so brutal when it came out, because like I guess when John was in the band, like there were some pop elements too, and like you said, like it had that sort of like early or late kind of mid 90s Fat Records influence and stuff. But I remember the first time I put on Empires, and it just like it's just an immediate just kick in the gut.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
And it was also like punk, especially in the 90s, or all music, I guess, really in the 90s, kind of had like the mentality that like it's cool to like it's not cool to play guitar solos. It's not cool to be really good at your instrument, and that really did me a big disservice. It took me. I kind of had a little bit of a hump to get over about being like, no, this is actually, I love playing guitar solos. But there was a handful of punk bands that just like didn't care and would just blaze riffs and solos and stuff like that. Y'all were one of them. Strung Out, they were super tech, and there's a couple more, but that were just I always. I looked up to y'all for that because it was just like, see, it is, you can totally throw like a just ass tearing guitar solo in this song, and it makes it better.
Yeah, I found like for me now, when I think of the '90s, it's like the worst era of music humanly imaginable. Mm-hmm. Like you can listen to almost any style of music in the '90s, and it's just like, whoa, that's terrible. That's terrible. All the metal was terrible. All the punk was terrible. It's just like, holy Christ. Like good bands were like Death, and you know, like there's like a handful of bands that were still interesting, and I think we were just like we were trying to forge this little path. Like, oh, please, like there still must be something we want to like, you know. I just like whether
you reached. Yeah, I was gonna say you reached me, man, because like it was once I was tired of music too. It was weird. Like ska punk was huge, but it was obviously like just every label was like trying to throw their ska band in the hat. It wasn't until somebody handed me a Converge CD.
Okay, yeah.
And I heard that, and I was like, oh shit, there's bands like this, and they just get in vans and drive around the world and just play shows, and you don't have to be on MTV and you don't have to be on the radio and any of that. Nice, I was like, oh, whoa! It totally like blew my world open.
Yeah, I think one thing that. In Empires, you ever heard of the metal band Fate's Warning?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was really into Fate's Warning, and I in the 90s they were one band I found what they were doing was really interesting, and I just kept mentioning it to Chris and Jord. Like I'd send Jord like, fuck, check this drumming out, and you know, so I think it really influenced like our take. And I think bands like No Means No, like we just always reference them in Voivod. Like we want to be like no Means No and Voivod, and you know, like we want to try to play our best. Like I don't think, like I saw a quote not too long ago. I won't even mention who said it, but it says punk is good music played by bad musicians. But I'm like, dude, it's so far off. Like,
totally.
Bad musicians, unless you're one of the top percent, is going to be bad and uninteresting. You know, like unless something about you is so unique that it can overcome the bad musicianship, you're done. Like I was taking this drawing and painting class for this guy who's taught like all these people all over the world, like it's online. And the guy's saying, yeah, you can think you're special and think that you're very talented and don't have to do the work and it's going to happen for you. But he said he's taught for 40 years and he's only seen 2 or 3 people like that in 40 years. So he's like, unless you, for some reason, you think you're one of these 2 or 3 that don't have to do that, you have to just get down to it, you know? And I kind of feel the same about like punk. Like there's this idea, bad music or good music played by bad players. But no, how come you have to, like, okay, maybe the Crucifix were good even though they were terrible at playing, you know? and like a handful of others. And then there's a few people on the cusp of like let's say someone like Minor Threat or something who heard Bad Brains, who actually were really good players. And then they came along and just like this, for 1 year, this youthful energy came out of nowhere. And, you know, like even though they weren't the best, it was still passable. But even to those people, after the first year, like they didn't know what to do anymore, you know, and then they broke up. So like unless you think something special is going to happen with yourself in this little spark of time, and you're going to milk that spark for 30 years, like you have to do something.
Ain't that the truth? Seriously. Well, man, I really appreciate you sitting down and taking the time to talk with us. I just it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah,
is there anything? I know it's the 20th anniversary of Today's Empires, Tomorrow's Ashes.
Yeah.
Maybe we should play a song off that. I don't know, unless
sure.
you have anything new kicking around you want to throw down.
Sure, let's play with friends like these. Who the fuck needs Cointel?
Cointel Pro.
Yeah.
That's one of my
that one. That's the most noticeably better one on the new version than the old version. So
I can't wait.
Just because the drums are just, they just sound like here. They're kind of smeary on this old version and just kind of like, I wouldn't say powerless, but getting towards powerless. And when we stripped it down and just heard the real drums, you're like, no, Jord cracked that out, and we're gonna hear it now. So it's kind of cool.
That's awesome. Technology's come a long way, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as almost we were using. I wouldn't say too much technology, but like this is almost more natural, and it's just like heavier.
Cool, man. I can't wait to hear it. Yeah. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah,
man.
Thanks, Kyle. I'll go listen to The Sword again while I'm drawing here now.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. All right.
Overhead, but thirsty vultures circle patiently.
Thanks so much for tuning into The Highway this week. A big shout out to Reverend Guitars, Railhammer Pickups, and Earthquaker Devices. If you liked what you heard, you can follow where you can follow, subscribe where you can subscribe, and if you want to go one step further, you can support us on Patreon at The Highway with Kyle Shutt. For a few bucks a month, you can help us keep this party going, get early access to next week's episode, and even get yourself a shout out.